podcast to help athletes develop proficiency, assisting the passion for the game they love. Today, we have a very special guest today. This is episode 93. With that, I'm going to start off and ask you a question. Are you trying to get to the next level, play college baseball? Well, we're going to talk about what are the three things high school players can do to position themselves to get a college offer. Because now I know, we got 226 coming in. They want to know what to do to get a college offer. Also, we're going to talk about how to prepare for life after baseball. Because I know a lot of guys may run into some issues, maybe an injury, Tommy John, they don't want to play no more, whatever the case may be. That special guest today is going to break that down a little bit. And also, one of the things that we like to talk about, that we should be talking about, is why is mental health important in baseball? And much, much more. But today's sponsor is brought to you by Coach Laurie and the YouGoin Pro Podcast. We're going to be, if you're looking for a book that will change your life, and you want to know what does it really take to play D1 baseball, I want you to know, stay tuned and go to my website. Here, we will have that out here very soon. YouGoin Pro Podcast will have a book, Are You Really D1? It's going to have all the tips. I have a lot of interviews and everything about what to position yourself to be a college baseball player. With that being said, Mr. Matthew Helke, I hope I'm pronouncing it correct.
Absolutely.
He is a performance optimist coach, a mental game mentor. He's a founder of the Baseball Observation digital magazine and training directory. He also is the founder of 360 Peak Performance, and I've heard that before, so check it out. He's also a two-time bestseller of a co-author of Peak Performance, and also with that, he has a BS in psychology. And also a certified sports psychology coach. He's a certified biometric specialist, certified core conditioning, and basically the guy has everything. He knows it all. So with that,
I wouldn't go that far.
With that being said, he also has a great resume with baseball, high school baseball. So that's why we're going to talk about the three tips about high school baseball. With that, with his credentials as American Baseball Coach Association, National Federation of High School Baseball, High School Sports, National Federation of High School, and also with Ohio High School Baseball Coach Association, and much, much more. I don't want to bore you guys. I want to get right into it. So this is very own Coach Laurie. Bring it on, Coach Matthew Helke. How you doing, Matthew?
Good. I appreciate you having me today.
Man, that's a whole lot. I have a whole lot. I had A through Z and a 1, 2, 3 and QRSTUV. I had a whole lot to put out there, but I want to say thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate that, and this is going to be a blast. I'm gonna love every minute of it. Let's get right to it, Matthew. It seems to me, we're talking about the three tips, the three questions I want to ask you, but looking at your resume, you got quite a bit of resume. I want to know how did you able to do all this in such a short period of time? Man, you've got everything. You got a degree, certification, for a guy that is coming out of high school, right? And they may not know what they want to do. And baseball might not have fell through or whatever the case may be. What is something that you can tell them to position themselves for life after baseball?
For life after baseball, it really comes down to how have you been brought up, and you need to, number one, as I always say, question everything. I think we discussed earlier, when they first position themselves, always question what you think you know every day, because things change. So you need to keep informed, and quite frankly, to position yourself after baseball, if you don't go to play college ball or pro or what have you, which 99.8% of the people don't, is to understand that you want to put yourself in the best situation possible, and that surprisingly means you do need to question what you think you know, because you have to grow. I think Carol DeWick said it right, growth mindset and closed mindset. That's why I always say question what you think you know, because one of my favorite lines, I forget who said it, was, the person who doesn't learn is the one who thinks he knows everything.
Yeah.
And we don't, and I think you understand. So to position yourself better is, once you start learning things, you start learning how much your eyes open, like what I don't know. Right. And quite truthfully, to position yourself in that regards also is even to listen to people you don't agree with. Right. I listen to people whether it's training or some type of, whatever it might be. I still listen to both sides of the story, whether I agree with them or not, because what you're going to find is they're going to kind of either when you're listening to somebody, you're going to find it all of a sudden you get emotional, you get kind of upset. That's going to tell you, is that a weakness of mine or is that a strength? In other words, am I thinking this emotionally or am I thinking this through logically? And we all know emotions usually kicks in before logic does. Um,
Yes.
and that's the toughest thing to do is a lot of times people want to prove themselves. Once you try to prove yourself, you're actually showing your weakness.
Right.
As I always say, confident people, I don't need to prove myself. I'll show you.
Right.
And again, so when it goes back to number one, how do you prepare yourself? Is to make sure you don't. There's a thing called confirmation bias. In other words, you only look at stuff that agrees with what you say, and you disregard things that contradict what you think or say.
Right.
And that again, you got to see both sides because even on the bad stuff, I tell people, even through the bad instances of life, everybody, oh my God, that was so sad. There's something positive in there. Sometimes you got to really look for it. Trust me,
Correct.
I've lived through some things that I had to look.
Right.
But what did you learn from that? It's
Right.
not like it beat me down. I don't point my finger and say, look what they did to me and they did this and that. I look at it then as where could I have done something different? How could I
Different.
have seen this sooner? So what it does is starts your critical thinking. And the critical thinking starts with critically thinking yourself.
So.
Are my beliefs correct? And go from there. So that'd be like the number one thing to do is if I call it self-examination, and why is that tough? Because people don't like to look inside. It's really tough to look inside, to be honest.
I
And
like
then
that.
when you do see that skeleton, do I want to let that skeleton out or not?
Out. Right.
So then you
Right.
keep it down, but that's going to kind of guide you of how you react and deal with other people. So you
I
got to
like
be
that.
understand where you're coming from.
I like that, man.
And honesty takes a very tough. It took me a while of honesty with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, because you can't change and you can't continue on unless you break the barriers for you and yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And people get I laugh because and I truthfully watch what other people say. In other words, when you're developing for a future in life, there's two ways you can look at this. I always say I look at someone, I say, hey, I'm throwing water on you. Did you get wet? No, you didn't. So words are just words. It just depends on how you want to interpret them.
Correct.
But I also have a few things of saying, and I show how words can actually weaken yourself. I go into that in my book, but I physically, when I talk to people, and I actually do two demonstrations called the iron ring and the straight arm.
Mm.
People freak out about when they tell the truth. I put their arm straight out and they hold it. And I say, tell me something that's truthful. They say, I love my mom. And I'll press down their arm. It's hard to get down. Then I'll say, okay, now tell me you hate your mom. They'll go, I hate my mom. You can push their arm straight down. And physically, it can affect you depending upon how you interpret or how you bring things
Right.
in. So you got to be careful with what you say to yourself and how you say it, and learn how to talk to yourself. It's like, well, how's that going to prepare me for future? Critical thinking is how you deal with other people, because
Correct.
until you know what triggers you, sometimes
Correct.
you're not going to be able to move on from that, because there's going to be some people you've walked into a room and just saw somebody and you're just like, I don't like that guy. You
Right.
never met that person,
You
or
know
some
what?
girl you look at and go like, oh, she's full of herself. I can just tell.
Right.
You've already said, but you've never talked to that person. And
That's good.
the last one is, I always say, never judge. And it's how you say, never judge somebody. I want to tell you something. I mean, how many people you'd be driving down the road, say the interstate, they blow past you. I mean, I hear my mom used to say it, my dad, look at that idiot. He's going driving the grave and all that. How do we know what's going on in his life? I'll tell you a story. I was taking my mom down to an eye doctor. She's 86 years old. Got outside of Dayton, Ohio. We are going to downtown Dayton, and she has a massive stroke in the car. I look over. She stopped talking. She slumped over, slurring words. I hit hands free. I called the hospital in Dayton that I knew. I said, I'm coming with my mom. I'm not pulling over because I'm only 5-6 minutes away, waiting for on the interstate, waiting for somebody to get there. It's going to take much longer. So yeah, I sped up a little bit, going through downtown Dayton, swerving between traffic. And I know there's people I ruin their day thinking, look at that idiot, look at that. But they had no clue the situation.
Right.
If they knew what was going on, they probably would have pulled out of the way.
Yeah.
Now, unless somebody goes blowing by you and they're, smoking whatever and drinking beer and go, ooh, okay, you can assume. But we always assume the worst. We always assume people are doing things against us. We don't know what's going on in their lives. So you can't take things personal. You look at it. Now I know somebody will blow by us and my wife will go, look at that idiot. I said, he just got to go to the bathroom really bad. You know, because I don't know what's going on with his life. Sure, he could
Right,
be a complete moron,
right,
or
right,
an idiot, but I don't know that. And why would
right.
I allow that to ruin my day?
I like that. I like
So you
that.
got to turn things and say, until it's proven out likewise, you can keep it neutral or keep it positive or just dismiss it. Yeah,
Right.
who cares? Because we don't know.
I like that.
So
I like that. That's good. That's really good. Which you give me to another subject that I was not going to talk about that you just led
okay.
me to, and in my book that I'm writing is almost
Mhm.
done. I'm pretty much done. I'll be done in maybe 2 days. The question I want to ask you, which is, you talked about assuming, thinking you more than what you really are. We talked about that before we came on the air,
Oh yeah.
because with that, a lot of kids, high schoolers, we're talking about high schoolers.
Hmm.
Everyone thinks they're D1. Every kid on earth and the parents, everybody. And I'm
Right.
talking about this in my book. And I want you to say, I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to surprise them with the book. But I want you to break it down. Does every kid have the capacity or are able to go D1? Because the last time I checked, Matthew, there's I don't know how many schools there are: D1, D2, D3,
About
NAI.
4,500.
Yeah. And so the question I'm asking you, do you think that every kid is able to play D1? Because everybody think they're D1, but everybody's
Right.
not. Everybody's not. But I want you to kind of break that down, because you talked about looking in the mirror. I'm paraphrasing. Look in the mirror and see who you really are, because your skills may not be there today. So can you
Right.
break that down to high school athletes trying to play college baseball, about trying to go somewhere they don't supposed to be?
Oh, I can use my son's a perfect example. When he
Okay.
came out, he graduated in 2012. When he came out of high school, I mean, he's 6'4", 245, and when he came out of high school, he was a power hitter, hitting home runs. I mean, obviously that size first baseman. He was a closer and decent, but everybody thought he was going to be a hitter. And so he got some offers D1 and all this, but he went JUCO.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a stereotypic size to go into D1. But what he looked as was several different aspects. Number one, when you go into any school, regardless, you freshman, odds are you ain't playing as a freshman. You're going to be on the bench. So I don't care
Mm.
how good you are, what you think, because we had recently had a guy who was excellent, went to, I, I want to say, got overwhelmed with the D1 because it was a good SEC team, and
Okay.
sat. And now he's going to mid major. He got a transfer for because he only played in 6 games, and only in the games that there were blowouts.
Right.
Um, he's good, but what you want to look at, my son looked at this way. He goes, Dad, I want to play. I mean, my son was going to either Wake Forest, God, where else? I mean, I won't rattle him off, but he ended up going JUCO because number one, he played right out of the chute. Number two, boatload cheaper, $5,000 a year, versus $8 billion. Um,
I love it,
and what
Matthew.
it showed was, number one, he got in, played right away, and they honed him down to be a closer, which surprised me because he ended up being a better pitcher than hitter, and he was a great hitter. And the second year in JUCO, he led all JUCO in saves. He That in turn got him a 75% athletic scholarship, and then he had like another 10% academic. Usually it's the reverse,
Right,
even though
reverse.
he graduated from JUCO with a 3.75. But you understand, he got an athletic scholarship in baseball at 75%, which is unheard of. I remember sitting there and the coach slid it over, and I tried to keep my smile down when I saw the numbers. And the school Nathan decided to go to, he had a chance to go to D1, D2, all these are. He went to this D2 school because that's where he wanted to go. Number two, a private school, which was at the time $55,000 a year, but minus all the stuff. I think again it cost about as much as JUCO did. So what happened? JUCO paid for him continuing to go on and getting an education, but
Mm,
he's also realistic. He says, "Look, not everybody's going to make.
thank you.
I'm going to go to where I like to go to school, where I can play, I can get a good education."
Hmm.
So basically, he put baseball going. I mean, let's put it this way: when he graduated from college, he actually grew. He got to be 6'8", 275. So he grew 4 more inches in college and gained
Wow.
weight. So and Phillies were looking at him to be drafted, etc. Then he had a meniscus issue with his knee, and he was done. But the whole point was the realistic. and I'm glad he came up with it, was, look, I know I have the stature and all this. I have the ability as a closer to maybe make it into the bigs, but I also know like 0.5% of all people ever get into make it to the bigs. What am I going to do after that fact if it doesn't work? He was looking at his education and where he wants to go and where he's going to be happy versus of the pie in the sky of, yes, have that dream of, I want to make it to college. Okay, well, I want to make it to, well, if you want to make it to college, are you a D1 person or not? Most players are not. And even if you are, you ain't playing right away. You're going to get frustrated. Are you playing? I kind of like the JUCO path because odds are you're going to make it. You're going to play. You're going to be happy. And guess what? When you prove yourself, even over transfer portal guys, now, which, back when my son, you didn't have the transfer portal, but they're going to look at it and say, this guy's got 2 years experience. He's coming in as an experienced guy. You're going to get more money for athletic scholarships or all this, or you prove yourself academically. They always say JUCO, they go because they get, this XYZ kind of person. No, not necessarily. Yeah, some of these guys can't get into higher up because of their GPA, so they try to work it down there. But I'm telling you straight up, JUCO is not a joke. They work. I mean, the programs I know of, they work your butt off to get good grades and all this. So you're not going in there just as a Band-Aid to get you in the cut. You're going to get a grade. You're going to work, or you ain't playing. So the realistic terms of is put your priorities straight on. I want to be a college baseball. Honestly, be honest with yourself. Are you really? In that regards, contingency plans. I'm not saying you cross the river and burn the bridge and you can never go back.
Right.
What I'm saying is more in life can happen. You could get injured, and what are you going to do? I mean, how many injuries are there, especially if you're a pitcher? And don't get me on the aspect of the pitching issues right now, but odds are what you going to do?
That's right.
Look at professionals when they come out of playing sports, they're broke. Plan for these things and then get there. So the assumption that I'm best thing since sliced bread, and your little bubble, you probably are. And if you get up into a bigger bubble, you might be pretty good there. But to be honest with you, when you go to college, you got a team of number ones. This ain't a team of number ones, twos, to 15s to 20s. They're all number ones, and a lot of times, if you, even from a college, or I'd say a town of 200,000 people, what are you going to do about that guy who came from LA? What are you going to do about that guy who came from New York City, from Florida, who plays all year round, but you live in Portland, Maine? You don't play all year round.
That's right. That's right.
There's different aspects you got to look at and put in perspective. So be real, and when the really good stuff happens, congratulations. I'm not saying you set your bar low, but I want you to be realistic and move your bar up as you understand what's happening.
That's good.
Because what happens is, had a guy I know, same year as my son, sister team. That time he was 6'8", 200. He was throwing 95 plus in high school. My thing is, my son hit home runs off of it and all this stuff, but he got drafted. He right away he thought he was going to be drafted, but he wasn't drafted, so he went to UNC, University of North Carolina. So I'm like, he could throw a ball through a car wash and not get wet, but you didn't know where it was going.
Right.
He was there 1 year. I think he got into 4 or 5 games and left. Now here's a guy who's 6'8", throws 95 plus in high school. I'm going to UNC, which is great. And I'm like, hey, that's not the right choice. And he did there, and because he thought what didn't help was he thought he was really good. Again, ego gets in the way. And then when he didn't play and realized other people were better, instead of working harder, he just gave up. I'm not going to do, like he couldn't. I think if he would have put the effort in and went on, he probably could have done pretty well. But seriously, I mean, think high school, 95 plus at 6'8", that's intimidating as heck.
Right.
And so that, again, another guy went to who I discussed from our recent school, went to a large guy and now going to a mid-major. You get caught up in this idea, I got to go D1. No. Go to where you can really show your talents, develop them there, and go to the transfer portal, go JUCO, and have that 2 years of experience of, look how great I am. Pay for your school, because college, I graduated from college after 4.5 years, $10,000 in debt. Woo, that was all. My son went to a $50,000 school, came out, I think $7,000 in debt, because everything else had been paid for because of what he did in JUCO, and he was realistic about what to do. He's not in baseball anymore because of his knee and all this, but you know what? Because he thought of his education, He's making very good money in a job that he thoroughly enjoys, and he usually stands out because he's the tall guy that they got to get people to get stuff for
I like that. I mean, this is episode 93, very own Coach Matthew Helke. We're talking about three things that high school players need to prepare for to get the college offer, and much more stuff. Man, this is very good. Matthew, Coach Matthew, I got another question. If you can give three tips to three high school baseball players trying to get an offer, and there's a caveat: do not talk about showcases, and also don't talk about visiting schools, because that's normal. Because right now with travel baseball, I'm not gonna talk about that because we got
him. Right.
time. It's always about travel baseball, and I'm gonna visit a school. Everybody's doing that. So if you can give three tips to for high school players trying to get an offer, what will be your suggestion from your experience, and also with your son as well, based on what you know?
Well, number one, I do want to support you in the fact of as far as showcases. No, most of the time they're money makers, and you're wasting your time. Don't do it. And I'll leave it at that. Um,
Oh,
Number one, truthfully, and I don't want to be harping on this, but it's grades. What are you doing in school? How you present yourself? Are you getting decent grades? Because what coaches look at, if you don't have good grades, it doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you're not taking stuff seriously. You're
serious.
not taking your life seriously. You're not taking yourself seriously, and you just want to coast along. Guess what? Coaches want guys that come in that work. And is it fair to say, well, I work hard when I'm on the field, but I do it in the classroom? No, I mean, they look at everything. They don't just look at, hey, I'm Joe Stud. I had a Met, and here's what I mean is I had a Met scout. We were sitting in the parking lot before a baseball game. He was there to see the opposing team's shortstop. And the opposing shortstop came off. Well, most everybody was pretty well put together. He had his hat on backwards, flip-flops on, didn't have his pants on yet.
Oh Lord.
And he goes, all right, that was nice. I'll see you later. I go, not going to watch him. He goes, I've got 10 other players with his talent. If he doesn't show the respect, whether he's on the field or off the field, we don't need him, because that tells me what he's going to be like for the organization.
Right. That's right.
This kid had no clue. He just missed an opportunity to go play, be recruited by the Mets. You might say, well, that's just the way he's dressed. No, that is not. He wouldn't even play in baseball. So they look at things besides that because they don't want problems. They can replace you. There is 10 to 20 people behind you that will take your spot that are as good, if not better, than you. How are you going to set yourself up? By showing every aspect of your personal life. So number one, it would be the grades. That's the big thing. They obviously, attitude. We don't need Mr. I'm cock of the walk and what's going on. I like the Barry Sanders look. I make a touchdown, I juke somebody out of their jock strap. I make the touchdown, I just hand the football over to the official and I walk away. As a coach, okay, some people, you're old school. I go, no. The guys who scare me are the ones who are quiet. The ones who are noisy, I know who they are. I know what to do. Or I know they're trying to do something or show that they are when they're not.
Right.
To me,
That's
the
true.
confidence of somebody who's hits the home run, doesn't look at it, hits it, watches it, but runs, touches the bases, high fives, and gets in. Not pounding the chest, doing this. You're showing me of now. You don't do this all the time, do you? You're acting like a little kid who just got a present at Christmas. Oh my God, I got this. I always say, you want to impress me? Act like the most spectacular play you made. You get up and brush it off like I've done this before. I expect it to happen.
Oh my, that's funny.
Coaches look for attitude, but they don't look for attitude that means hey man, I'll make this and pumping chest. They want the guy that when you look at, I don't have to do anything. I look at your presence when you walk into this room. You could be smiling. I know that's a guy. Oh, I'm following that dude. When you have that inner quiet and that inner confidence where I don't need to prove myself,
Mm-hmm.
that shows better than I walk in there with all the bling on and showing all this and doing all this. And if you got to show me all this, that tells me you ain't.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't show me and then I see it, that's scary because that means you got so much confidence you do this all the time. So attitude and the attitude of humility, that's the other part, because humble people don't go out and start preaching themselves. Humble people quietly do their job, and at the end of the day, you just go look at them and go, oh my, good job. And trust me, you'll be noticed. You don't need to point it out. You will be noticed. And nowadays, the quiet person's going to be noticed more than the loud because everybody's loud. then it's the quiet person that's going to get noticed.
Coach Matthew Hilke. I love it because you're talking about some things that I talk about in my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel for the guys that don't know, guys and girls that listen to this podcast, episode 93. You can go to my YouTube channel, YouGoin Pro. It's YOUGOIN apostrophe PRO. And I'm talking about the same exact thing you're talking about. Exactly. Everything you're talking about, I'm talking about it already. It's just great to hear confirmation because a lot of guys think that, like we talked about before we came on the air.
Mm-hmm.
For the people that don't know, I was flashy, but also I was immature. Bottom line, I was immature. I wasn't responsible. I was a me guy and not a team guy. And as life kicks you in the butt and hits you in your throat, knocks you down, you realize it's not about you. It's not about you. Period. That's not just in the classroom. That's not just on the baseball field. That's in life as a whole. Because
Yep.
you affect not just yourself, you affect all the people that are around you. Because if you feel like you have no friends or you're not friendly, it's a reason why you're not friendly. Because nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to be around you. So I like what you said, Coach. That's really, really good. Let's talk about something else that you're very good at based on your resume. It's talking about why is mental health so important now in baseball. Going back to what you just talked about being flashy, I think that's a mental health. I think that's a cover up when people flashy. There's nothing wrong with looking nice. Now I'm not talking about people that want to look nice and you wear gold chain. I'm not against that.
Right.
But when you're just braggadocious, let's put it that. That's old school. Braggadocious. I may wear a gold chain. I don't wear earrings anymore. I don't believe in that. But I may wear a gold chain and whatever, but I'm not doing it to be flashy. I just like it. It's not like I'm got the bling bling. And there's a guy that used to play for the Marlins, plays with the Yankees. You know his name. He's short, dark skinned, da 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 da. Not gonna call his name out, but I think that the kid has talent, but I think he has some developmental issues. And I'm not talking about baseball. I'm talking about upbringing. I'm talking about the way he deals with life, how he handles situation, because he had that same situation at one team up in Miami, Florida. Now he's up in New York. He still have the same issues. So that goes back to mental health. That's why I'm bringing that up, because I think that he's a little bit on the braggadocious, me guy. And, I think it has a lot to do with his upbringing. So I want you to kind of elaborate as far as mental health based on that situation. Just, I'm not saying the guy's name. You know who I'm talking about. I know you know. But I'm just trying to see your point from that.
Well, I mean, again, it goes back to we all want to assume certain things about people. Now, there's patterns you can get indicators that, as they say, correlations don't mean a fact, but they sure indicate something good or bad. In his case, you look at, especially a lot when you come up, if you haven't had the guidance or
Correct.
respect for or understanding, or you've lived in an environment where you had not,
Correct.
you have not stuff, and now you have God's given talent. And long story short, you make it. Now you've never had money. You've never had the people to praise you because let's be honest with you. When you start being good, people start leeching on you. Some people do.
Right.
And so when you haven't had something, it's filling this void. You feel it's pretty good. I like this. So now you think you deserve it. You own it. And then there's the others who have grown up, as you would say, the privileged. Well, they're on the opposite. They expect it. I am privileged. I get this. Okay. So you've got two people coming from two completely different areas, but they have the same attitude. They get there a different way.
Correct.
And you're right. So what we got to look at when you deal with these, you've got to understand the first, when I go through all my trainings, I don't have cookie cutter training, even for my physical training for hitting and pitching, obviously baseball coach. I got to know the person. I got to hear what they're talking about. And a lot of that comes through just conversation with people, being real. I'm not going to stroke your ego. I'm going to tell you stuff that you might not want to hear, but I'm going to be honest. I need you to be honest with me. A lot of these times, both sides of these people haven't had people who've been honest with them.
Right.
Or to survive, they had to do something to survive. I mean, let's be honest. I've had some friends that came from some bad areas, and it's like, if I didn't, they were going to kick my, and I was going to be down. So I appreciate it. but don't go back to that situation then at some point in time. You do have that opportunity.
Correct.
So when you look at from a mental health standpoint and the person we're talking about, from an approach, it's one you got to talk to them and look back. Do you understand if it happens at one, another? One, you can say it's not me, it's you. But when it happens again, then you say it's not you, it's me. There's a point in time where things are telling you things, and I'll be honest with you, depending upon the maturity and not knowing the background, so I don't want to talk off cuff.
Correct.
It might take a year or two before life smacks him hard enough for him to come to the realization, or he loses everything, or he's traded again. The whole point is, until you get in that situation, it's kind of hard. But what you have to do is look at the individual, start looking at the patterns, and even go back of what happened and were they conditioned to be this way? Because environment, regardless, it's easy to say just walk out. I live in the worst hellhole in the world. I say, well, why are you living here? Just pack your stuff and walk out. Where am I going? What am I doing? I got to get through it. It's not as easy to do as, just do this, this, and this. I understand it ain't easy. It took me a while sometimes to break a few habits that I had. One of them was smoking way back in the day. I quit 4 or 5 times, and finally I was just like, but change has to come from one place. If you're going to change somebody, you ain't changing them. Change comes internal. You can say all you want to them. You can show them, tell them, here, until it's like anybody who's addicted to drugs or somebody who diets or overweight. Until that changes, they're going to relapse. Until that mindset changes. So unfortunately with this gentleman here, until we find out what it is, and even if we do, that onus also still has to be on him. Because for that change to happen, it's the internal. It's the internal. So, from a mental health, it's talk to people, friends around him. Maybe it's gently talk to him about stuff or say, hey, try it this way. Or, there's little, as I call truth bombs you can throw. They're just little baby. I'll call them truth firecrackers. We'll say, just pop. You don't want to smack them up what they call the big true intervention. You get 50 people around, you lock them in a room. But you got to start gearing people away from certain mindsets or just, hey, no, they want to do something is detrimental. Hey, let's try over here. Delay them a little bit at least. Show them that delayed gratification of doing it. Even if they still go out and do it, they've delayed it a little bit, then delay it a little longer. Externally, we can help that transition for them to see things. That's why I won't go into it. But that, from a mental health aspect, there's a lot to deal with. The environment, yes, but part of that environment is also the internal of what you're doing and how you interpret stuff. Right. We both see the color red, but your color red is different than my color red.
Right. I get you. I love what you said, the way you broke that down, because it's very important to get an understanding, because
absolutely.
We may see something, but it may not be what you see. We talked about it when we opened up. We talked about judging a book by its cover. I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
Judging a book by its cover, and you don't know why this guy is driving like a maniac. Well, you don't know that he's having a panic attack and he needs to go get some insulin or whatever. We don't know.
Right.
But we think just because we see it, that's what it actually is. And I appreciate you giving me that. That was a wisdom nugget. That's a wisdom nugget, guys.
That's being old nugget.
That's a wisdom nugget. I like the wisdom. I call it the wisdom nugget.
Well, and the thing is, people don't realize how many things they're being taught lessons every day and they don't pay attention.
Right.
It's the simple things. Even like you said, they always say the simple act of kindness. I found myself last time I held the door for somebody, and it was just second nature. I didn't think of it.
Right.
It was my nature to do it.
Correct.
I wasn't doing it to get points in with God or, things like this. That's when again, we're talking about that player, when things change, actions speak louder than words. We can talk all we want. It becomes your natural habit of doing things. That's when the changes happen. That's when they can happen.
Man, I like that. Got a very own Coach Matthew Helke is the man. The guy is an author. Now we're going to talk about his book. He has 2 bestsellers, co-author of Peak Performance. Now, Coach, talk to me about this peak performance. Now, I know what peak performance is, but for the listeners, what is peak performance? And can you talk a little bit about that book? I know it's not, it's not this year, but you wrote it back in. It was
2022, I think it was.
Okay, talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, to the listeners. Peak performance.
It's actually got. It was put together by Mr. Eric Stevenson. He gathered like 26 experts from around the world.
Oh yeah.
And so we all wrote a chapter. And then one got done so well, he re-asked me to write another chapter for the next book.
I
So
like
I
that.
did. And one, it's about I wish they were reversed, the chapters I wrote. Even though the one that says peak performance for business, mine is about visualization. So, I mean, baseball players could use it, sports, whatever. The one that's in peak performance mental skills for athletes is about self talk
Mm.
and what words mean, kind of what I talked to you about briefly, but it goes into that. So it was nice to be, I mean, we've got world class athletes. Um, if you go to and see the authors that are the other people who wrote the different chapters in the book, I was very humbled to be in this mentioned in the same category as athletic athlete, excuse me, Olympian athlete who's writing it, and all these other professionals and PhDs and I was asked to write not once but twice in regards to it. So they're very good. Even the business one is can be for athletes also. When I read the book itself, there's a lot, but mine definitely is for athletes. But I kind of and it works in business too.
Okay.
So that's what those two are. They're chapters on how to initially do either understand how your language and self-talk works and how visualization. And in that book, that chapter, actually, I can't visualize hard. It's hard for me to vividly see stuff. But
Mm.
as I tell in the book, it's like even if you think of the word, you visualize what it was. So
Right.
you just think about doing stuff. You might not be able to see it, but you're doing it. So whether you can see that bright shiny red apple in your mind, or you just think the words bright red shiny apple,
Okay.
it sparks the same thing. So those go into the cognition, neuroplasticity, just a lot with your brain and how learning happens, how words, connotations. Words have two different meanings: what they physically mean in the dictionary and how somebody takes it.
Right.
So it's
Right.
denotation and connotation.
I like that. I mean, Coach, you talked about that, but I looked it up. I'm looking at it now. There's many peak performance books on Amazon. My question is, which one is your book? Because I'm looking at it now. I don't know which one. It's so
One
many.
is one's Eric Stevenson. It's called. Hold on, let me think. I think it's called. I've got one here in my office somewhere, but I don't. Hold on. Maybe I
Eric
can. It's peak
Eric's.
performance for athletes. Yeah, give me. I see it, but I can't reach it without taking my headset off.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to know because for the listeners that might want to check that book out, that's why I wanted to make sure I throw out that plug for the listeners. We brought it up, so
Oh yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
that might be a book that we might want to promote as well. With that, you know. But I'm
Yeah,
going to
I'll
say that.
pop. I'll see if I can pop it real quick
But while you're
here.
doing that, I got another question.
Yeah,
While you're doing
go
that,
for it.
you talked about visualization. That's another thing that I like to talk about. That most high schoolers that are trying to get that D1 offer or college offer, that's something that we
Hmm.
don't talk about. That's something that does not is not being talked about enough is visualization. Um, I know from one of my mentors, he talks about visualization, see things in pictures. You see things in pictures. So
Hmm.
if you say this, I'm going to go buy me a new car. Let's use a car. Let's just say we're going to buy a Maserati. Let's use that for example, right? Let's just say you want to buy a Maserati. Before you go get that car, you visualize that you can see yourself going to get that car. What does that car look like? What does it feel like? What does it touch like? How does it run? And I said that because going back to baseball, is when you are preparing to get to that next level, you got to see yourself at the next level. It doesn't mean D1, going back to what Coach Matthew said, it doesn't mean
Right.
D1. And it's no disrespect to JUCO because I went to JUCO, by the way. I went to JUCO. So
Hmm.
I love JUCO. But I'm just saying this because I know when I was growing up, no one ever told me about visualization, ever about visualization, never. But
Yeah, me too.
but I'm saying that because as I got older, I have more wisdom. I've hit my head a couple times against the concrete, and I fell a little bit, and the ego, tore me
Yep.
down, and then God picked me up and put me up. And I'm thinking that because I talk about that as well. Visualization, I think is very important because, like, think about it. You're a coach. Think about when you got your team, right? Let's just say we're the game, and this is the championship game. Well, we got to start lineup. So you visualize while you're putting that lineup what's going to happen, even though it may not happen, but you're starting to think it because as you think it, you become what you think. You start thinking it and you start moving by faith and walking these things out. Can you talk about how important visualization is? Because I think that you have visualization skills because you talk about mental health. Because mental health, you have to see yourself healed. You got to see yourself going through something, succeeding. So can you kind of break that down for baseball players?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to is seeing. They always say seeing is believing. It's really you got to believe before you can see it.
Yeah,
Um,
got that right.
and
Amen. Amen. You better
yeah,
believe it. Thank you, Lord.
because if most things in life, let me put it this way. I tell people you got more faith in that chair than you do in yourself. They go, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You sat down. You probably looked at something that was in there, but you sat down and figured it's going to work."
Correct. Correct. Come on now. That's right.
Now,
That's
when
right.
you go out and do something, you don't trust yourself. I
Come
say the
on.
same thing about religion. They trust you trust that pew more than you trust God.
Come
They look
on.
at me and say, "What you mean?" I said, "You sat down. There's been how many people over how many years sat in that old rickety wooden pew
Come
made
on
by
now.
man,
Come on
and you
now.
sat in it thinking it's going to hold you.
Come on now. You
But then
preach
you
it.
come here and you start questioning
Come on,
yourself.
man.
You start
Ooh,
questioning everything.
Jesus.
So you put yourself out there more to somebody. You put your faith and trust in external things. But who pays the bills? You pay
Come
the
on.
bills. That external stuff does not pay the bills. You're the one who does the work. You're the one who has to put in the work to do what it is. You don't sit there and put your hand out and somebody says, "Give me $1 million." Okay, there you go. You got to put the work in to do it.
Mm,
But guess what? If you don't have the faith that you can do the work to get into it,
it ain't gonna
you're not
happen.
going to do the work. You're not going to make it.
Thank you, Lord.
Now you're back to square one.
Mm.
Does that help? So
Hey.
when I mean that's the biggest punch in the gut I can give because truthfully, everybody wants change. Oh, we got to change this. We got to do. You know what? You got to change yourself first if you
Come
want
on.
to go to someplace else.
That's right. That's right.
Change,
It don't
changing
just
who you
happen.
are gets you right. Gets to it. Now, do you have help along the way? Absolutely. And that's where I mean people miss people and everyday life. They miss lessons in everyday life.
That's right. You said that. You said it so plainly. You said every day there's I'm paraphrasing. Every day is an
Right.
opportunity. The question is, are you looking? And you can learn
Right.
something every day. And you talked about the kind act. I talk about the kind act you did. I did that today. I take my wife out every week. We go on a date every week for 11 years, every week, once a week. It can be just taking a walk. It can be just because I live close to the beach. Go walk to the beach,
Mhm.
or we just go get some coffee. I don't drink coffee, but we can go. The
I don't
point
either.
the point is, I made a conscious effort to pour into my relationship with my wife so I can have the fruit that I want. And I'm just using
Right.
that for an example. Now
Right.
let's flip this side. You talked about open up a door for someone. I did that today. I just realized when you were talking, but I don't think about it. I just try
Correct.
to I get to the door before she gets to the door. It's just a natural response. It's natural. I don't have to
Right.
conjure it up and want something out of it. It's just because I know that God put that in me to be a man, be a gentleman. I want you to be a man of standard and do what's right. Period. Because we don't see that enough in this world. We don't see it. So talking about that, some people says, which you already noticed from coaching baseball, guys say,
Hmm.
"Well, coach, I don't." This is another talk about is meditation. People say, "I don't meditate." Hold up, hold up.
I do it every day.
They say I don't meditate, coach. I said, what? What do you mean? You thinking about something? You're thinking about something every day. Every day. That's a form of meditation. And you don't have to have a PhD to understand that. Come on. You don't need rocket science to figure this out.
Right.
So I was like, I had this happen to me a couple years ago. I said, "Do you guys ever meditate?" "No, coach." I said, "Okay, let me give you an example. Get that phone out." Get that phone out. Start doing this. Do your finger. Just do this. And then sit on it for one. Just look at something longer than 2 seconds. It's a form of meditation. As a man thinketh, so is he. You're thinking about something. So if you're thinking about something, you're meditating on something. And I said that because I want you to break that down. Don't you think that visualization and meditation goes together? Don't they work together? Like it's like a twin. I would say like faith and hope. They go together. You can't have one without the other. And I think that we can manifestate uh, some things in our life, especially on the baseball field. I'm talking about baseball. I'm not saying it because baseball is one of those sports you're going to fail. But if you start thinking right, things will happen. And I didn't say it's going to happen all the time, but there's a scripture that as a man thinketh, so is he. I want to talk about meditation based on looking at your resume and you got a great resume. Don't you think that has a lot to do with it as well? Meditation.
Everything we do is thought and visualization. 80% of how we learn is through our eyes. All right, you close your eyes, you can still visualize what there is. So, let me back up. And it's been quoted, I've tried to find it, but there's been a lot of studies. Basically, the majority of our thoughts every day are negative, and like 80% of those thoughts are the same negative things we had the day before. And it's kind of understandable of your mind as a human, and I don't care if somebody believes in evolution, doesn't believe in evolution. The point is this. Our brains are developed. Why do we look at negative things a little more stronger than positive? Negative things that probably hurt us, positive things won't. So the innate of trying to survive is to pay more attention to negative things. So what do you think your mind's going to be talking? Negative.
Negative.
So how are you going to stop that? And you know what? Think about it. When you're sitting there, my mind, I'm talking to myself all the time. I can be putting a straight jacket in a room, and I'd be comfortable because I'd be talking to myself the whole time. But I realize people don't realize how much they're talking to themselves. And here's the paradox: who's talking?
You.
People say, "Oh, that's my inner voice." Son, that's you also. They think it's somebody else. But you know what? That inner voice is sometimes it's your fears, it's your concerns. It's, when you hear that voice that said you strike out and they go, you suck.
Right.
That's your fear of the fear of looking dumb, the fear of not working out. You don't worry, so what do? You take that voice, visualization, meditation, you work with it. When it says you suck, you don't say, why do I suck? Well, where do you think I suck? You start asking your own questions too, because you know why? It opens your mind to critical thinking, to understand, and you start talking. So let's go back again to all this negative, and visualization and meditation is teaching you how to control, is listening. You sit there and, like you said, visualization, you close your eyes, even if you can't visualize a red apple.
Right.
I use an example in the book. Just by saying red apple, that concept's in your head. Mm-hmm. And when you start hearing the bad words, you can either let them, I don't believe it. You can literally say, I've said that before. That's not my belief. And you might have to say that a couple, 300 times every time it shows up.
That's right.
Or you can hear, why do I think, or when did I start thinking I sucked at hitting? Start asking questions. That becomes more critical of getting, not just taking carte blanche of this negative stuff, because negative things are going to be talking to you. And they're not, even those negative things aren't necessarily bad. It might come out to seem bad, but in the long run, it's opening the door for you to find something out. It sounds really metaphysical, but it truly isn't. Because what you're thinking doesn't come out of the blue. It's come from somewhere, and it's coming from you. So you better let's find out what the root of it is. How did that come through? And where did that come from? So when you stop and be silent, I like to call it the silence. How many people can sit, keep their mouth shut in a dark room for 5 minutes? Not many people can do it. You want to start learning how to meditate? You don't have to start by meditating. Start by when you wake up in the morning, for the first 10 minutes, don't look at your phone.
Right.
Get up, stretch, brush your teeth, get something to eat. Do not look at the phone. Do not look at your computer. Do not look at television. Take the first 10 minutes to 15 minutes of your awake time for you. Start your day off comfortable and calm versus chaotic and being stimulated right out of the chute. It's going to happen during the day. That's like telling somebody, don't stretch, go out and sprint. You're going to pull a hammy. Something's going to get hurt. So it slows you down. People think we're so much of doing Google searches. And if it takes more than 2 seconds, people freak out. This thing is so slow. What is going on?
Right.
Patience. I'm old school. I won't do that joke about the two bulls up on the hill. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But the whole thing is people start their day right out of the chute, and now they have no time for themselves. When you sit and talk and visualize,
Right.
You start setting your mind, neuroplasticity. You start setting a direction for yourself. You start setting a path for yourself. You start seeing it, whether you believe it or not, irrelevant. Don't think of what can I do. Think of what could I do? What might I do? See, when somebody uses what can I do or what could I do, you're basing it on what I can physically do right now with my gifted, my skills now. When I say what might I do, expand your mind past, well, if I keep working, I might be able to do. So start visualizing, I might be able to do X, Y, Z. I might be. Or you can say I am. Well, you go to the I
Yeah.
am. When you claim I am, that's who you are. So I am terrible at baseball. Guess what? You're going to be terrible at baseball. And I'm not saying fake it till you make it. All these great self affirmations. I can talk, again, words are cheap. I can talk till I'm blue in the face. What are the actions behind those words you're going to do that make those words more functional for you? So visualization, self-talk. Self-talk is talking to yourself in the correct way, not beating yourself up or saying, somebody does something bad. I always say, be mad or upset for about 10 or 15 seconds, then get over it.
Yeah.
What did you learn from it? Because if you don't vent a little bit, people, that happy, fake it till you make it, you're going to become like Mount Vesuvius at some point. You're going to blow.
Yeah.
You got to let that go out. So the visualization, the meditation, the quietness settles your mind down and teaches you to listen to yourself, slow things down, become more critical thinker, and visualize yourself, because now you're making yourself believe I can do this. When you say, I might be able to, I might, everyone says, I'm going to be an MLB baseball player. Well, that's great. What might you be doing, though, to get there? Not what could you do?
Right.
What might you do? Again, no goes into words, but does that help? I mean, hopefully I answered your
helps.
question.
That helps a lot, because there's like I've learned something as we get older. One size doesn't fit all. But
Absolutely not.
But I can tell you this, with this, just because it worked for you don't mean it's going to work for me. But going back to what we talked about in the beginning of the episode, you can learn something from it if you have an open ear. That's the question. Yeah. That's the thing, because we can be still going down the same direction, driving a different vehicle, but I may have different gas than you have. So you may get there a little faster or a little slower, but we're still getting to the same destination.
Right.
And that's the problem with most people. They says, well, that worked for you, but it didn't work for me. Well, okay.
So I'm not going to do it.
Correct. So going back to what you said before, originally in the beginning, I don't forget what you said. You said every day there's an opportunity. If you're paying attention, you got to be paying attention, because God lets everything happen for a reason. Are you going to get something out of that? Even a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that as I got older now. No one taught me this. I had to just learn this. It's called basic, the stuff that people don't talk about now, common sense. It's common sense. It's common sense. You got to sit back and say, okay, I heard what Coach said. He said this. I may not believe in that, but I can still get something out of that. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. You can believe what you want to believe. Like you said earlier, you can believe what you want to believe. I believe in God. You may not believe in God. It's okay. You don't believe it. That's fine. But we're still trying to get to a destination. Bottom line, we're going to get to a destination. Now, you may take a little longer. I may take whatever, or vice versa. The question is, what's the vehicle we're getting there? How are we going to get there? That's the question. Because a lot of times we say, well, going back to baseball, we talked about going D1. Some people say, I want to go D1. Well, you may not be D1 ready, or you may not ever be D1 ready, but you
can still make it to the pros.
Correct. But see, that's right,
that's
Matthew.
What people don't realize.
But people don't think about that. That's the point of the show today, and we're talking about all these great topics. We're talking about the 3 things that you need to look for. We're talking about preparation after baseball, which I don't talk a lot about that, which we need to. We talked about a little bit about peak performance. That deals with the mental and the visual. That's part of peak performance. People think just hitting the weights and throwing hard. No, we're talking about the intangibles that we don't talk about. The intangibles, man. Coach, this has been really, really, really good. I'm gonna close it out in about a few more minutes. I got a few more questions I want to ask you based on your resume. Go ahead.
I will throw you one thing. The name of the book, it's Peak Performance: Mindset Tools for Athletes.
Okay.
And it's by Eric Severson. Well, he's the one who put it together. Created by.
Okay. What color is the The book, because I've
It's
seen like
white and it says peak performance. It's kind of big. Then underneath it's got. I might be able. Let me see. I don't know if I can.
yeah, because I know I see like a lot of them on Amazon. There's quite a few on Amazon, so I just know
Yeah.
which one was yours. Because I've
Now I
heard of
can
the
flip.
book. What you got
Oops,
there?
sorry. I thought I had that muted.
That's
Are
all
you
right,
still
bro.
there?
Yeah, I'm still
There you
here.
go.
I'm still here.
All right. Good. Yeah. I don't know why somebody. I'm trying to think who just. There was a baseball coach just called me. Sorry, college coach.
That's
I
okay.
just hung. I just hung up on him, but that's okay.
Well, Coach, I appreciate everything. We've got a few more minutes left. We got to. I want to close it out, but I wanted to ask you one last question. If you can give us an answer that we know that baseball has changed quite a bit over the years. Now you can pay college athletes. Baseball players don't get near as much as football and basketball, but the game has changed quite a bit. What's your intake on how the game has changed with this transfer portal? Because, you know, I mean, this is just my opinion. I mean, I was one of those guys that transferred, but I transferred for the wrong reasons, Coach. For the wrong reasons. I'm being honest. For the wrong reasons, because I thought I was better than this guy. Da, 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 da. I was a me guy because I was trying
Right.
to survive. I had, like you said, you talked about the situation with the other professional athlete. We talked about
Right.
you don't know my story. You don't know what I was trying to do to get to where I was trying to go, and it didn't happen. So how I gotta sneeze. What do you think about how the game has changed quite a bit in college as far as the transfer portal? Because now it's harder for high schoolers. Truthfully, it's harder. It's going to be harder because now they got 22-year-olds playing, 23-year-olds playing. So what are some? Well, give us one tip you think that can help prepare a high schooler dealing with that transfer portal because they're going to sit for the most part unless they're
Yeah.
outstanding, unless they're Nolan Ryan or Barry Bonds or Ken Griffey. They're going to sit. So can you break down what do you think about the transfer portal? We're gonna close it out.
I agree. I mean, obviously, I saw my son. He went through it before all that. All and see, and I understand that it's. I'm still personally kind of assessing it. I mean, I think it's good that players are being paid. Number one, because the schools did make a boatload of money off their likenesses and things of this nature. Number two, after what, and as an athlete, they say, well, they got all this money for school. Okay, but these people also have a life, extracurricular. They got to buy groceries. They got to buy this. They got to buy, money. They don't have. Most of them cannot get a job because their job is their sport in that school.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
they
right.
might be getting not, and they say, well, the school's getting paid for. Unless you're, you know what? Unless you are a football player or basketball player, you ain't getting everything paid for.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So
That's right.
and this is a job. So I appreciate the aspect of them getting paid. Now I don't like that they're getting. Who was it? What's his name from? Was it Manning's son? Was making more as a backup quarterback at
Yes,
Texas
for
than
Texas,
Purdy was making as a starting quarterback for San
San
Francisco.
Francisco.
Yeah, that's wrong. So
Yeah.
I disagree with that loop of money. That should be what I call put in the pot for everybody to share, depending upon whatever the money is. Because you're right, baseball players, swimmers, uh, women's, they don't get, they're not
Track.
going to get that. Yeah, they're not going to get that, but their likeness and stuff. So regardless. So as a player, what are we looking at? Um, it's tougher for high school players to come out because they're looking at transfer portals. They want somebody, who's come from, if you're baseball, that say came from Vanderbilt and he wants to go to XYZ. He wants to go to Duke just for the heck of it. Now
Right.
let's use it UNC. So but they get to pay, and guess what? You're still sitting back. That's why when I say how is this affecting? I think this is where the JUCO area and even your D3 is tough because they don't give athletic
Scholarships.
scholarships.
Right.
You'll have to get it, intellectually.
Academic. Right.
But if you also go there, you can prove yourself and usually play a lot sooner than a D1. So be realistic. The competition for you to get to where you want to go has just skyrocketed because of the transfer portal. And what is it still 2 times a year they can do it? I believe.
Yeah, it's
So they're
ridiculous.
looking to move that a little bit, which I agree with. Um, but so as a baseball player, that's the other realistic thing you've got to look at when it comes to this day and age. Of I'm not saying you're lowering your bar. I'm saying you are looking at this judiciously. You're looking at this for success, not failure. You're looking at this for a career path, not an ego trip.
I like that. An ego
So
trip.
yeah, the bottom line is I don't care if you go D1 or JUCO D3, you're right out of school. What's your end product and what you're going to do to get there?
Mm,
A lot of times these JUCO players are also the next people these guys look for. They don't look at high school. College will look in the transfer portal, and they look at actually who's coming out of JUCO
yeah.
because they know JUCO players have played. Now you get into the like my one guy said he entered the transfer portal from a major D1 school and is going to a mid major, played 6 games. A JUCO guy is going to get props over that D1 guy who just transferred because he didn't play. You've got to look at it somewhat as a business for yourself also. You got to play the game. So what's going to give me the advantage? Well, the advantage is you got things stacked against you right now. So how are you going to work that in your favor? And again, I'm not saying you got to go JUCO, you got to go this, but you better darn well open your eyes to those things and get your head out of the clouds
Right.
and say, because very few are D1 freshmen you're coming in and starting.
You're right.
You're coming in, sitting your rear end on the bench for 1, if not 2 years before you see any type of turf. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, JUCO's nice because usually you're going to play right away.
Yeah.
And even D2, D3, you're going to have a little more. Now, everybody says, yeah, it's D1. You know what? There's some damn good players there, too. Don't get me wrong. Maybe they have the same attitude. So don't get hung up on D1.
I
I'll
like
leave
that.
it at that.
Well,
So that, I mean,
coach,
hopefully does that answer just a little bit
coach,
more of,
coach, you get that's plenty. You gave me an overflow of information. I want to say thank you for coming on.
oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. This is episode 93. Coach Matthew Helke. We have talked about quite a few things. I mean, if you want and you need to download this, is really good information. We're talking about someone with some great experience. His coach, he knows the mental side of the game. He's an author. He does a little speaking. He does it all. So this is the episode 93. Coach, I want to say thank you again. I appreciate it, man. If you can go ahead and leave a closing remark for the listeners, and if you have any services, they can probably try to contact you if possible before I close it out.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the simplest way is Coach Helke, all one word, CoachHelke at yahoo.com. They can go to my website and contact me through there, which is thebaseballobserver.com. And my contact information is there. And I've got mental stuff going up for remote people that have asked. My final saying is everybody takes things too serious,
Oh, wow.
including themselves. I, I was walking with my daughter. I coach summer ball. And we were in Columbus. We were walking through this place called Short North. Great food, indoor, all ethnic foods and all this. And there's 2 little Japanese kids were putting their hands together like this, brother and sister. And one was like 6, the other one's probably 4. And they were laughing, putting like showing their hand side. As I walked by, I just stopped and put my hand down like for them to measure their hand against mine. Well, their mom said something in Japanese. They laughed. They put their hands up and went on. The point is, you have fun with people. Everybody looks at other ways. I saw the little kids having fun. I thought, it impressed. I make when I talk to umpires when I'm talking, I joke with them. We get coin flip. They win in a tournament, and the guy goes, "We'll be home," and I look at him. I said, "Okay, well, we'll defend this goal." I start making fun. You got to have fun with people and understand. Life is not put here against you. It's put here to help you. There's an old, and I can't remember the name. It's an old, I think it was not Hindu. It was maybe I think it was regardless Eastern or West Eastern religion. He was an old like the shaman. He said every day he said he'd wake up and look out and goes, "Who do I preach to? For I see divinity in everybody." So what I'm saying for you is when you go out there, stop looking at the negatives. They're easy to find. Sometimes they're a lot easier than positives. Question what you think, and part of that questioning is what I'm thinking of. That's always negative. Is that true or not? Usually it's not. Challenge yourself. Take life, don't take it so serious. Take it as a learning. You're going into class, your favorite class, and you're learning about life. And that is from the good and the bad. You get bad grades and you get good grades when you're in school, right? So look at this but you know what? I'm throwing a lot of hyperbole in all this, but you get a lot of more flies with honey than you do vinegar.
Yeah.
Be nice to people. You're going to find out, even the people who are mean to you, you can smile and say thank you
Right.
and walk away. They thank you. I just called you an SOB. Well, thank you. You made me realize that I'm really not, because I'm not jumping in your face. I don't need to prove myself. I don't need to become like you. What does that guy just taught me? You ever said? You remember said everything in life? Somebody cusses you out. Somebody cusses you off. Somebody flips you off. They might have had a bad day, and guess what? You're just a straw. I used to do a training for, and I said a lot of people in customer service will get crabby because people are just yelling. I said, you know what? Maybe they're yelling at you. Just save them from beating their spouse
Yeah.
or
That's
hurting
true.
their child or going out and drinking and getting in a wreck.
Mm.
You don't know what help you're giving somebody just by being there. Even if they're yelling their head off at you and cussing you out. You remember, we don't know what's going on in their life. You turn around and walk away. It's not personal. 9 times out of 10, it's not personal, but we take it personal because you know what? It's about me, man. It's about me. I got to show them a man. I got to show them this. No, you don't. You want to show me you're tough? Show me you can walk away. That's a tough man.
Yeah.
Show me you can learn from your mistakes. Show me you can be kind when somebody's being an SOB to you. And I'm not trying to be preachy about religion. It's about just being human. And guess what? It comes back.
Yeah.
You're going to notice every day seems a bit brighter. Things are going to be less crappy because you're not looking at the crap. You're looking at the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to give you a more positive attitude, which is going to help your mental skills, your mental health. And you might not be that, the Aaron Judge 220-25, this year. You may never be it, but that's okay.
Right.
Guess what you might be? Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
Just because you're striding to that top doesn't mean you're going to make it, but you can't get to the top unless you try to get there. And if you get almost there, you're still better than where you are now.
That's right. Man, that's good stuff, man. I'm closing out. This is very
Cool.
Coach Matthew Helke. He has broke down quite a few things, and I don't have a problem with people talking. I just like to learn from everyone that I'm in contact with, and I also like to keep a gate. There's certain things you let in, certain things you let out. As you get older, you learn how to do those things internally. And I want to say thank you again, man. I really appreciate you coming on. You give us a different aspect of things, because I am a man of God and I have no problem saying it, and people can say what they want. That's just their choice. Everybody has a choice. You got a choice to do whatever you want to do in life. That's just your choice. But with that being said, I just wanted to say, man, that's very much appreciated. Gave some great information to help these high schoolers, these JUCO players, and also some of these parents that listen. The parents, they need to hear this as well. These are some things that are very enlightening, and I hope that they apply it. And this is going to close this out. And the question I always ask every guest, I'm sorry, not guest, I apologize, the audience, the audience is, were you being led, LED? Because we're going some direction. My question is, what direction are you going in? What direction? You're going to be going north, south, east, or west? And for the listeners, we got Coach Helke. He just gave so many great things. We talked about the intangibles. We talked about 3 things to look for to get a college offer. We talked about the transfer portal. We just talked about that. We talked about mental health. So the question is, where are you being led? L stands for listen to everything that Coach has said today. Everything. You don't have to like it, but I think you need to chew on it. And L stands for listen. I believe that God has blessed everyone on this earth. He gave us all ears, so we need to use our ears more than our mouths. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Faith comes by hearing, and hear the word of God. And I want to say this: ears are more powerful than your mouth if you know how to use it the correct way. Which the next question is this: E. What does E stand for? LE. E stands for execute on all the things Coach has said today. Listen and execute. Now, you don't have to do everything he said, but there's a whole lot you can do. I'm gonna witness on that and give you an amen. So, with that last letter is D, LED. Where are you being led? The D stands for dominate. As Coach just brought it up in his closing remarks, he talked about going for the sky. Now, you may not hit the sky, but you know what? You could be the best Bob or the best Sally in your field. But if you never try, you'll never get there. But I believe everyone's has an opportunity to dominate in some field, whatever baseball, basketball, football, journalism, athletics, attorney, doctor, whatever. You can dominate in something if you listen, execute, and then you'll dominate. It's Coach Laurie, very own. We're closing out episode 93. This has been a blast. Coach, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.